I actually went through and watched like a whole bunch of interviews about you on YouTube, and I just didn't want to ask the same questions of like how you use Cursor and stuff like that. Um, I just want to say congratulations on the Cursor 2.0 launch.
I mean, in some ways, it's been a journey of long before I joined the company. Because it's both the release of 2.0, but also the release of our first coding model, Composer. And we've been building a machine learning team. They've been working on this for some time. I've been at Cursor for about 3 months, and they've been working on it for longer than that. So it's been really fun to get to see this live now.
So you moved to Cursor, you said like 3 months ago, right? Roughly
hmm
3 months ago. How has the transition been for you?
Yeah, it's good. I was at Vercel for 5 years, which is a really long time. Long enough that you get to live with your own mistakes, which I super strongly recommend for people. Like, it's very tempting to want to, hop between jobs, and it also requires you to have an employer who's willing to keep you satisfied for those that many years and keep you happy. But if that does happen, staying at a company for a very long time, 5 plus years, is really nice because yeah, there were so many decisions I made in year one, year two, where year three, year four, year five, I was like, okay, yep, I remember why I did it this way. I'd do it differently if I could try it again. And you get to learn about the repercussions of good decisions and bad decisions, good hires, bad hires. Yeah, it's a good experience.
Is it true that you commuted like 7.5 hours from where you live to San Francisco, like multiple times a month to go to the
Yeah,
office?
yeah, it's interesting. I am born and raised in Iowa, and I grew up like an hour from where I live right now. I went to school at Iowa State University, like an hour from where I'm at right now, and I live in Des Moines, and I've kind of always been in this area. I've traveled quite a bit, but have always loved to call Iowa home. My family is here. My wife's family is here. We really like it here. We're raising our family here. And when I started working at Vercel in 2020, well, one, it was COVID, so everybody was remote, right? But then as things got back to normal, I started spending a lot of time going to San Francisco to, I mean, first and foremost, just meet the people that I had been working with and also, get to know them better and spend time in the office together. Back in the day, Vercel was in a WeWork, so like it was a very small
Wow,
office.
can't even imagine.
Yeah, it was very different. Um, and I ended up getting into this routine of like, I would go to San Francisco at least once a month, pretty much. And I jokingly called it my like 6 hour commute because there's not a direct flight, which is really annoying. I have to stop in Denver. But yeah, I go there still to this day, all through the 5 years at Vercel and now at Cursor. I'm still there at least like once or twice a month. And that works pretty well for me and my family. It's like I'm still going to be home with my daughter and my wife and stuff, but also I really like to spend time in the office and get to hang out with people there.
That's amazing. So it sounds to me that family and where you're from, the lifestyle you have in Ottawa and in Iowa, I was gonna say Ottawa because it's kind of like similar vibes, but in
Yeah.
Iowa is something that you really value and you don't compromise on that. That's why you live there, but you also want to be part of to work in this industry where it's like bleeding edge. And do you feel the pressure to move out of to San Francisco?
I remember when I was in college, university at Iowa State, I thought that making it as an engineer meant that you would go get a high paying job at Google or Amazon or Microsoft. Like you would become a staff engineer or like a distinguished engineer. And that was what success looked like to me. That was kind of what it felt like to be an engineer at a state school in the Midwest. Like I wasn't in the Bay Area, I wasn't at
Hmm.
Stanford, I was just at a relatively normal school learning computer science, computer engineering. And to me, that was like, oh, that's when I know that I'll have done well and I've made it in my career. And I thought I was gonna be forced to make this career decision of, well, I can either work at like jobs in the Midwest
Yeah,
or I can
like
move to San
Epic.
Francisco, yeah, or Ottawa, right? Like I can work in a non-tech hub,
Hmm.
or I can move to San Francisco and like you know I will only progress in my career if I make that jump. And I feel like it feels that way for a lot of people, and it felt like this false dichotomy to me, to where I didn't want it to be that way. And one of the silver linings of remote work, of COVID in some ways, was that it forced a lot of companies to look at places like Iowa and Ottawa and all these places around the world and be like, wait, there's some really great people here. And maybe it's okay if we think about what remote could look like and we give some of those people a shot. So, I will give lots of kudos to Purcell for taking a shot on me when maybe it wasn't obvious. I had been an engineer for 5 years building products and building software in the Midwest and doing what I loved in my free time, which was teaching people how to code and how to build software. And they took a shot on me, and I think it's helped me realize that if you really care about your craft and you put in the hours and the blood and the sweat and the tears, which I definitely spent a lot of time trying to hone the craft and get really good at teaching devs. If you do that, it doesn't matter where you live. You can live in Iowa, you can live in Ottawa, you can live anywhere in the world, and all that matters is what you ship. So if you ship good things, if you ship interesting products, tutorials, code, blog posts, people will find you and people will share it. And it's always mind blowing to me how fast it lands in the Slack channels of the people who matter if you do good work.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I do agree with you. There are two things that came to my mind. So one is ship and then put it on X. And the second thing is going to meetups. So I live in Ottawa, which is like a government town. It's kind of sleepy. It's not a lot of tech stuff going on, even though a lot of people don't know this, but Shopify started from in Ottawa. And now people don't even know that anymore. But is there like a tech community or like an AI community in the city that you live in right now that you're a part of, or
Yeah.
you think about starting?
Yeah, so Des Moines is not government, but an insurance town. So there's
Ooh.
quite a few companies in insurance here,
Uh-huh.
and a lot of people have to do or enjoy doing software engineering roles at these companies. So think about like Principal Financials of the world or Nationwide. Like they have a
Yeah.
big hubs here. Um, I also have found that, so I guess to go to the meetup point, Des Moines has some meetups, not as many as major tech hubs, but I've went to them in the past and enjoyed going to them. And also the campus from the school I went to, Iowa State. Iowa State has a pretty good curriculum and culture for computer science, computer engineering. A lot of the people that I went to school with are now doing amazing things in the industry, who are happy to call Iowa State their alum. And I feel like the thing that has really worked for me is trying to still stay active around here in this community, but also take part in the broader online community. So just a few days ago, I gave a talk at Iowa State for one of the student clubs about Cursor and about AI. And I asked the people in the class, how many of you all are writing code with AI? And a class about 30 or 40 kids, they all raised their hand. So it's
That's
like it's
great.
happening so fast, even in places like Iowa State. It's not Stanford, it's not Harvard, it's not MIT, but they're just as curious, just as hungry as some of these top schools. And it's been interesting for me. I take a lot of pride in going to Iowa State and being from the Midwest, especially now having the opportunity to work with a lot of people at Cursor who went to Harvard, they went to MIT, they went to top schools, and they're brilliant. They are wonderful people. But for me, it reaffirms like there's no one path. There's no one clear path. We're at the same company. I think that they're, very competent. Hopefully they think I'm very competent. And we got here in two completely different ways. And I just want more kids who are at Iowa State, who are in Ottawa, who are in like small town, rural United States or another country. Like you can still be deeply involved in the SF tech scene. You can still build amazing things. The internet and AI is this like amazing democratization of intelligence. And if you have high agency, you can just build things.
Speaking of grads, students, and especially junior developers, because I also teach developers. I used to teach at the full stack development bootcamp, and when AI tooling became more prominent, we switched to teaching like those tools. And whenever a student asks me like, "Oh, like what kind of skills should I like, you know, take on to be able to get a job after this program? And I'm like, we actually don't know because like everything is moving so fast, and companies
Yep.
one day might put like a cursor on the job posting, and another day like maybe put another tool on there. So we actually don't know. From your experience, like, do you have any thoughts on that, or where do you see the industry or like the job market for like the junior pipeline going in the near future?
Yeah, I think I'm already seeing job postings that I don't think it's as much about the specific tool, even though, of course, I love Cursor. It's more about proficiency using AI and understanding how AI works under the hood. I think for a lot of students, they're using ChatGPT now, so they're starting to understand like what it means to work with an AI model. But I think it requires a deeper level of understanding for how the models actually work and what an agent is to be proficient with AI coding. And those skills and that knowledge is transferable between really any AI coding tool or platform in the future. Like if you understand how models work, context windows, tokens, tool calls, agents, like that stuff is going to be the foundation for everything in the coming years. And it will probably take another, even with a big, like brand new breakthrough in how AI models work, you're still going to have a lot of that stuff unless it's drastically different, like maybe years and years and years out. So I would recommend people definitely take the time to learn those things. That was what I've spent the first couple months at Cursor doing, is trying to teach people those things. So I made a course, cursor.com/learn, that walks through all of this stuff for people who are kind of just getting into things. In terms of other skills, I think that the typical college or university curriculum tries to push you to kind of go very deep into a class or a subject and like learn everything about this thing. And I think there's still a time and a place for that, but I would love to see more curriculums that allow students to go very broad and get a wide variety of understanding of different tools and technologies and find what sparks their interest and gets them excited and then go deep. And I think for me, just my own experience, I felt like I was, trying to go too deep on things I wasn't as intrinsically motivated by until I found web
Hmm.
development. And then I was like, okay, this is way better. If I would have just found this earlier, I think that I would have probably enjoyed the journey even more. And when you enjoy the journey, when you have intrinsic motivation, when you wake up every day excited to build things, you're also just going to learn way faster. So I would recommend more now than ever, like understanding the foundations, super important. But that doesn't mean that you have to read 27 books on data structures and algorithms. You just need to know the broad strokes of what they are, how they work, and then you can reference them later. And you can work with AI if you don't understand every corner case of what a binary tree is. And like most of the time, you're not implementing binary trees from scratch anymore. Like it's just not really a thing most people are doing in their day-to-day jobs.
I also went to school in the Midwest, so I went to Denison, which is in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
I actually studied economics and film, never worked a day in the industry, but I do remember taking Computer Science 101, and they refused to teach web dev, and this was 2016, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of my friends who worked in the industry, and at the time was Amazon, he came back and he gave a course on web dev. That was the first time I saw it, and I was like, I'm already a senior, but I wish that I knew that, this existed, or I wish we had this program, because I
Yeah.
didn't really like the other C++ stuff at the time, and that's why I did
I
like
think
econ instead.
some of the university curriculum feels like they try to teach the CS foundations, like what's a for loop or a while loop or
Yeah,
something, what are variables, and at least for the way that my brain works and the way that I like to learn, I would love to learn that because we're building a thing that requires looping. And
right.
that thing requires you to actually like see something real. I'm a very visual learner, so for me, like looking at did my C, program compile was not nearly as interesting as seeing something light up in the browser that was more visual. I just had more of that design background, so I kind of liked that. So, yeah, web development is something I wish I stumbled onto earlier. I also think that something that I wasn't taught in school, maybe they teach at other universities, but I didn't realize there were all of these adjacent roles in building software that are not
That's true.
explicitly called a software engineer,
Hmm.
but you still kind of need to be a software engineer. And like, I don't know, product management, designers,
Hmm.
TPMs,
Forward
developer
deployed.
relations. Like, there's like all these other ways, there are all these other things that are required to build good software, and you kind of need all of those pieces.
Yeah.
And they don't really talk about those in school that much. At least they didn't in our school.
So my school was a liberal arts school. So I
Hmm.
think their philosophy was you got to learn the fundamentals, and we're not
Hmm.
going to talk about anything too hands-on here. And do you think that's so? Some people do argue that because AI is going to take over a lot of different tasks that we're doing nowadays, or in the near future, that's why a liberal arts education might be useful because then you're thinking from like a, I guess, a first principle perspective. You're not, married to like one approach to things, but you're thinking more in terms of like critical thinking, problem solving.
Yeah,
So do you find that to be the case, or hands-on experience, tool usage experience still matter?
I think that so in terms of liberal arts degree versus like a computer science degree or a different degree, I have found that the best engineers have a very strong taste and a very strong sense of what good design is. That doesn't mean it necessarily has to be pretty pixels on the page. The design could be just how the thing works, and they have a strong opinion about how the thing works, and they've ingested a lot of quality content and a quality products. They use apps and they really think about why is this thing so much better than everything else, and how do I emulate that in my work. And there is a touch of that, like it's both art and science. So like you get the science degree, but like you kind of need to know the art degree too. And like when I find myself browsing Dribble or like
Hmm.
design websites, Behance or I don't know, like any of these other ones, like to me that I was always interested more in the art side there, but also then the science to make it real. And you kind of need both of these things, and that's why a lot of designers are just loving life right now because they have been stuck in this gap where they have amazing ideas and they were trying to get somebody else to build it, and that's really frustrating. Now they can just build it. They can just cut out the person in the middle, and I think there's going to be a huge wave of designers who just like leapfrog a lot of people.
And also for people who don't know how to build or have, I guess, that Ira Glass quote where it's like,
Yeah.
you have good taste, but you're not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you're frustrated because you can't get there, and it takes years to hone the craft to get there. I think those people are going to have a great time building software, me included, because
Yeah.
sometimes there are things I don't know how to do or design, but I'm like, I can just take this first step and just like prompt it.
I like to try to get input from a bunch of different places. I think X is great. X, I mostly follow people doing engineering work or building companies or products that I find interesting. Um, but I also get inspiration from, and this is probably not the answer you expected, but like pop culture in general. Like, I watch a lot of YouTube videos or other social media videos or like TV shows, or I'm a huge music fan, so I get a lot of inspiration from like watching, I don't know, behind the scenes of Tame Impala's new album and like dissecting the latest music video that he made, which was super good. Like that stuff in a weird way gives me a lot of inspiration for the craft of just building things, because there is a lot of overlap, even sometimes you might not realize it, between the arts and what it means to build something into the world. And a lot of people that I really respect and look up to are kind of at the intersection of arts and technology and doing very, very cool things.
I think I get what you're saying. Recently I spent a lot of time going down rabbit holes of like how Anthropic designed their branding and logo and design language and all that stuff. And I don't know about you, but I can feel the same philosophy in how they built Claude Chat, Claude Code, and everything. There's a sense of like organic and casualness to all of that, and it spans
Mm-hmm.
across the entire brand. And then I would imagine in my head like that's what it feels like to work there. But I don't know if any of that thing is any of that is true, but it just feels cohesive. And
Yeah.
I love films also, and I do find inspiration from films, pop culture, art graffiti in how like I like design.
The way I would describe that, by the way, the Anthropic thing is there are certain companies who really get design, and getting design means that you understand it's not Figma mockups, it is how the thing works. And I mean, even Dylan from Figma will tell you design is how it works, right?
Hmm.
But a lot of people equate it to designs, like literal designs, when in reality it is how the actual system functions. And that's why when you see people, I don't know, prototyping interactions in Claude, like what the response looks like, that is how it feels to use it every single day. And there's this element of dog fooding that great companies do. I mean, I saw this all the time at Vercel, which is a very design-led culture. They really stressed prototyping, testing ideas, dog fooding, like making sure everybody who uses it internally loves it. And it's something that you want to sign your signature on. You want to put your name on it and say, I'm so proud that I built this thing. Because if you can't do that, then what are we doing? Like, what's the point of it? If you are not extremely proud of the work you're putting out, then it's worth like doing self-reflection on what type of job do you want to do? Like, is this the type of thing you're very motivated in doing? And of course, circumstances are different for everyone, and you know, it doesn't always work for that to be the perfect timing in life. But even when that's not your day job, I think it's worth pursuing that in the other hours that you have.
Is that top down, and how do you cultivate something like that? Because them hiring you, I'm assuming it's not an accident, right? It's gotta be some sort of like they saw, because you appreciate design. So
Yeah,
what are your thoughts on that?
I think there is a part of it that is top down, that if the people in charge don't really get design, you're fighting an uphill battle. It's very hard to get them to appreciate the craft of what great looks like. And one of the things I respect a lot about Guillermo is he knows what great developer products look like because he's built them and he uses them daily. And he's always looking for new ones to get inspiration from. And when the person running the company has that level of care and craft for what good looks like, I think that usually trickles down to hiring other people who feel the same way. And I think Vercel and other companies are a good example of that. Another one, I feel like, this one is very commonly cited, but I think Linear does a really good job with caring about every single pixel in their product and in their marketing and their storytelling and their branding and just how they represent the company. And I get a lot of inspiration from them too.
And I know at Cursor, or I guess Anysphere, you guys have a pretty cracked head of design. So how is it like working with that person?
Yeah, we have a small but mighty design team, and they're really great. It's been fun to see Rio and then also the other designers. They all have this same archetype of, they're of course very good at the craft of design, but more so they've evolved into, we believe design is everything and we're going to build it too. And they're shipping code. They're using Cursor to make their designs real, not only prototypes and like validating things, but some of our designers, we just released a new version of cursor.com/agents, and they were actually helping make the app better and improving the design and pushing code. When we released the new Cursor marketing site, like Rio was in there tweaking all of the interactions and getting into the code and like making prototypes, and Ricky, another one of our designers, was in there like tweaking the typography and settings, and Justin was in there like making sure the blog spacing was just perfect and the logos were right, and like they were in there building the thing like engineers because they are engineers now. And I think that's a really fun place that the industry is getting to, which is the rise of the design engineer. Like you can design, you can code, you can ship, you have the triple threat. Like you're a force to be reckoned with.
And for somebody who wants to, I guess, increase their taste or craft a taste, what are some advice you would give somebody who wants to do that?
So I think part of this is you need to develop your own taste about what you think good looks like. Because part of design is that you have to give feedback on other people's work or your own work, or going back to the Ira Glass thing, like you need to know what the gap is. You need to know what great looks like. And for me, again, that kind of comes in non-traditional forms too. Like I watch I don't know, MKBHD or Casey Neistat YouTube video, and like they're different, but I get a lot of inspiration in both of them in different ways. You know, I think MKBHD has an amazing level of care of detail and everything he does and storytelling. And then Casey is like the original storyteller. You know, all of his videos with his daily vlogs were like some of the best storytelling on the internet. And it's not like a one-to-one parallel to how I build a website, but you start to realize that's shaping your opinion of what good looks like. And then you watch a music video that has a very artistic sense of direction, and that also, you know, the artist is saying something about how they not only filmed the video, how they graded it, the timing, the pacing, but then what are the accompanying things with it? Like, is there a website? And what does the website feel like to use? And did they put that same level of care into maybe a mobile experience? And I think they're just a lot more interconnected than people realize.
I know you do invest in startups as an angel. What are some of the technologies or verticals that excite you the most?
So I'm a very passive investor, and I basically only invest in things that I use or personally stand behind. So it's not that many. It is growing though. I feel like I'm doing more now. But for me, it's something that I want to develop a relationship with the people building the product, and hopefully I have something that I can provide and I can bring to the table and make myself useful as an angel. So it's mostly things in developer tooling, in technology, in my kind of sphere of confidence and competence. I'm not really doing biotech investing or anything. I think that I have a pretty good idea how to make something that developers want, and that is both in how you actually create the product, how you tell the story about why you built the product, and then how you get it in front of them. And often that requires taking something very technical and making it easy for anybody to understand. And it's a hard thing to do. It's very hard to do well, and it depends on the product, but it's something I think I'm pretty good at, and hopefully I can provide value there to CEOs or founders trying to do something similar in the space.
I think you're one of the few people that I follow their blogs, and also there was this one blog that you wrote about the difference between writing a documentation site versus like writing sample example code bases, and like the differences between those things. And I thought that was so true, because especially when we're vibe coding, making the AI coder kind of like parse a documentation site and API reference is a waste of time. But if you have like reference code example snippets in the documentation site, it just knows the pattern, and it comes from the people who built the tools. Obviously, hopefully it's the standard way to do things. So, and the little details like that, I haven't seen anyone like write about them before. So in terms of that, like, would that be something that you could consider craft? Like, do you do it because you love the craft of like teaching developers, making sure the UX is great? Or is there like an ROI that you can point to when you do those little things?
I think it's a few things. First and foremost, if you can teach something well, then you truly understand it well. So part of writing it down and trying to teach people what I know is also me just synthesizing, I've learned this, and here's the practices that I put into place, and here's what I believe. So that's like number one. Number two, it's a great talent magnet and hiring magnet for people who want to also do that type of work. So I have a blog post, leerob.com/docs, that talks about the cursor docs that I built. And like, I basically wrote down, here's everything that you need to make great docs. Like, I'm pretty sure this list is pretty exhaustive. If you do every single thing on here, you're going to have great docs. And it kind of puts that signal out into the world. If this is something that you also care a lot about, like, we should work together. Because I think those type of people are willing, and they're always trying to figure out the little tips on how to make things just 1% better every single day. Yeah.
Since we both live in, I guess, non-target cities for tech, I do want to ask this one question, which is, what do you see that's happening in SF or what people are doing in SF that people in our hometown or cities should do to kind of like maybe expedite our learnings or take the most make the most out of like these tools because same crowd, same tools, but maybe they're getting more out of it than people where we are living around today.
I think the answer is you have to just go there sometimes.
Hmm.
Like you can get 80% of the value of SF being there 20% of the time. And I think for me the insight is like if you live in SF, you're gonna go into the office and you're gonna work all day and hopefully you're gonna have focused work time. So you're gonna be on the computer, please put my headphones in, like leave me alone, I need to work and do work and then go home and go to bed and do it all over again. And like that's kind of what I do at home too. I'm trying to really focus and get this work done. And then, yeah, I still want to have the social time where I go and chit chat or try to debug an issue live with somebody or brainstorm cool ideas. So you can make space for both. What I find, I talk to people who are obviously in the office all the time, and they're like, it's typical office culture. Like, there's just a lot of stuff going on, right? But the nice thing is that you're very close to other people that you can tap on the shoulder and ask for things. So there's kind of like two modes. There's sync and async. And I think async is a completely level playing field. You can do it in Iowa, you can do it in Ottawa, you can do it in Europe. You can do it anywhere. You can do it on a beach in Bali if you want to. It's the same thing when you're learning online, you're reading, you're leveling up your skills, you're building things. This is why a lot of digital nomads are very successful. You can just build things and learn and post about it online, and you can do that async thing, and that's great. I think that gets you pretty far, but the synchronous in-person time with people, building trust, building relationships, getting to know people it's invaluable. And the only way you do that is you have to be there. So that is going to conferences or meeting people in person. I would still highly recommend doing that just to not only get to know people, maybe people that you'll work with in the future, but it's also just fun.
For somebody from Iowa who wants to make their first trip out of San Francisco for maybe like a week, what do you recommend them do?
So I'll give you suggestions on the like work side and then on the fun side. So I would
Yes.
schedule it around a conference where you think there are going to be, people that you want to meet in the crowd or people that you want to meet who are attending. So schedule it around an event, ideally a couple events. So maybe there's usually SF meetups for pretty much anything. There's a meetup like every night, it seems like. So maybe it's a React meetup or an AI meetup or something like that. So try to go and just meet people and spend the time in person. So that's what I would do on the work side, just maximize getting around people and chatting. On the social side, I think one of the things two things I've really enjoyed, actually I'll give you three. The first one is rent a car and drive down Highway 1. It's like just the best thing ever. The drive from SF, if you're really ambitious, go all the way to LA, but man, it's an amazing drive. It's so nice. The second one is like drive to Yosemite. Also amazing. Like Yosemite is just completely I think it's underrated even though it's so popular. Like I've been to quite a few national parks and Yosemite is like, it's really, really good. But then like a closer thing is the Marin Headlands, which is like over the Golden Gate Bridge and then like kind of back in there. It's actually like really nice. It's only like an hour away from SF. It's very close. It's got some nice hikes. So that's underrated.
What are some of the most exciting things for you personally in the near future?
Well, part of the reason I joined Cursor is that I could feel our industry changing. I could feel what it meant to be a software engineer, rapidly evolving, and I wanted to be working at a company and teaching developers how to navigate that change. Not because I think that AI is replacing developers' jobs. I actually think that's kind of a false narrative. I think it is more so there's a class of work that is being abstracted and it's opening up more work for a different level of abstraction. Like all of the teams that I see really using AI a bunch are hiring more devs. Like the devs are not working on maybe the lower value things, but now there's like plenty of more ambitious work that they can do now that they've been freed up from some of the slog. So I'm very excited to see how this shakes out in the next 6 to 12 months. I mean, if you just rewind the clock back to a year ago right now, it is wild how much things have changed in just a year or 2 years in what it means to be a software engineer, what it means to write code, the tools, the models. Like the models in a year are probably going to be wild, and I think it's going to be really fun.
Awesome. Well, Lee, thank you so much for supporting our city through
Yeah.
Cursor and entertaining me on this podcast, joining me today. And also, just being overall a really awesome person to follow on X and your blogs. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.